as the interface boundary. Why? Because alpha is a phase, alpha is a solid solution, alpha ferrite, and then Fe3C is also a phase. Fe3C is a cemented, no, it's an orthorhombic phase. So alpha is a BCC structure, Fe3C is also, and now Fe3C is a different structure whatsoever, and the composition is also different. So, so what we call now is that so now if you consider alpha as the alpha ferrite in the case of steel, in the case of say mild steel, you consider alpha as alpha ferrite, okay, because having BCC structure, and beta as the Fe3C. So the interface between alpha and beta is known as what? Interface, or the interface boundary. See, there is not much of a difference between grain boundary and interface boundary. For example, in the case of steel, now the simplest example that you have learned till date, or even in the case of pure iron, take a piece of pure iron. So between the different grains, what do you have? Between the different grains, you will always have, this thing. You will always have something which is known as the grain boundaries. That is, now suppose if one of the grains has a particular composition and the other grain, adjoining grain, of course, or the adjacent grain also has the same composition, then the boundary or the interface between them is known as the grain boundary. But in the case of the same steel, when you have alpha on one side of the interface and the Fe3C on the other side of the interface, then what will you have? You will have this. You cannot call it a grain boundary. Then you should call it an interface or interface boundary also. You can call it. It's not a hard and fast rule to call it interface. You can call it boundary also, not that composite. So basically what I was trying to say is that all the crystals possess the first type of interface. This is always done. Any you take a pure iron, you take whatever, any damn XYZ, whatever thing. So what you get is that crystal or that material, you will definitely have free surfaces. Na? So free surfaces in a sense that, in class 12 you might have come across a very interesting concept, that is the surface energy. The surface energy, how to determine surface energy. See, okay, now let me ask you at least. I mean, this is a class 12 concept. So, guys, any idea about how to determine surface energy of any crystal? Not a crystal, any material, crystal. Surface energy. Surface energy. I think you learned it, no? In surface tension in class 12, there is a chapter. There is a chapter in that. Aniket, Subodh, कोई भी है, कोई भी बोल सकते हैं. You can talk. You know, right? What is how to determine surface energy? Any idea? Aniket, so what is how to determine surface energy? You know?
Well, we multiply the area with the surface tension. I mean that.
Okay. So surface tension, how will you find?
Um, are
In
you
class?
asking about the formula-based things or the
No, not
experimental?
formula. Formula is forget formula. Just simple. Thinking is, suppose you place a water in a bucket. Okay, you place some amount of water in a bucket. Then what will you think? Then how will you find out surface tension of that? Of the water, of the fluid. I mean, I'm not asking about the formula. I'm asking about what is your approach? What should be your approach? You studied this in class 12. Even I studied this. That's what I'm asking. Simple thing, no. You take a fluid, you take it in bucket, okay, and the surface of the fluid, okay, the surface of the fluid. So what is next to it? There is air, but then you go one layer bottom, okay. Suppose you consider the surface as level 0, and you move delta x a bit below the surface level of the fluid. Then what will you get? You will get liquid, right? So below is liquid, above is air, or above is whatever, above is gaseous medium. Then what do we call it then? That is the concept, right? I mean, that is so in that case, you can visualize that as the extra amount of energy. I'm not talking in terms of liquid because the metallurgists are not mostly dealing with liquid. We are talking in terms of a solid only. Now, in that case, now let's consider a mobile phone only. Okay, now let us consider the mobile phone. You have a mobile phone with you, right? Every one of you definitely must have a mobile phone with you. So in that case, the surface of that mobile phone. Now let us consider that surface as whatever, any random surface, and then the air. Okay, the top. Just if you look at the a bit above the surface of that mobile phone, what will you see? You will see air, right? I mean, there is air surrounding the entire room. this air. And now if you go around delta x distance, a bit below the surface of your of your mobile phone or whatever, so there what you will see, there's liquid, there's solid, right? So this means now we have to think in this way. See, the surface tension comes like this only. Yeah? So see, surface tension, the concept, how to visualize that is like this. So it is the, now in the case of solid, it is like the extra amount of energy, or the amount of energy that is required to what? That is required to break 1 mole of bonds from, or to transform 1 mole of bonds from the solid to the gaseous state, and that is known as surface energy, right? That is known as the surface energy. That is the definition of surface energy. So, I mean, this is the simplest definition. So, okay, so guys, did you understand the surface energy concept? Because this will be helpful later. I will tell you why. Yes or no, guys? This is. Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think only one guy is saying yes or no. Remaining guys, yes, no.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
अच्छा चलो ठीक है. Okay, fine, good. So fine. So all the crystals possess the first type of interface. So fine, done. Then now if you look at the second type, see the second type I was already saying. The second type is, it separates crystals with essentially the same composition and crystal structure, but with a difference in spatial orientation. And of course, orientation and all. Definitely, I will explain you in a bit more details. In lot, definitely we have to explain in very deep. But then this is the orientation is nothing but, now I can also explain you to explain it simply to you. Now again, let us consider your mobile phones. Okay. Now suppose you take one mobile phone. Okay, you take your mobile phone and you take maybe, if some of you guys have 2 mobile phones, then it will be good. But okay, now let us do one thing. Now take 2 mobile phones. Okay. Now suppose the 2 mobile phones are made of the same company. Both of them are Samsung. Okay, both of them are the Samsung mobile phones, and both of them are the same actually. Now one of the mobile phones is Samsung J10 Galaxy. The other one is also Samsung J10 Galaxy. Okay. Now think like this. Now if you consider the 2 Samsung J10 Galaxy mobile phones as the 2 grains, and now you are holding one of the mobile phones on your left hand, the other mobile phone on your right hand, and one of the mobile phones is being held in a certain orientation. I mean, suppose you twist your hand in a bit different, your left hand in a bit different way, and the other Samsung J10 Galaxy, mobile phone, same mobile phone, you are twisting you are holding on right hand, and you are twisting that right hand in a bit different way, so such that they are not, such that when you are joining those 2 mobile phones, they are not line to line with each other. Okay, so like दोनों को अलग अलग तरीके से हम लोगों ने पकड़ा है, left and right, both the same mobile phones. So basically, what in that case, what will you get is that the boundary of the interface, जहाँ पे वो लोग join कर रहे हैं ना, तो the boundary between these 2 mobile phones, or the point of contact, rather it's not the point of contact, because now here it will be the line of contact. Why? Because the mobile phones, if you look at, I mean, it is actually 3-dimensional, but if you look at it in 2D, it will be a line, right? It will be a line. In 2D it is not a point, in 2D it will be a line. So you will get a line of contact, and that line of contact will be what? Will be a boundary. Well, or you can now, if in case of metallurgy, you can think that if one of the mobile phones is a grain, and the other same company, same model mobile phone is the other grain, and both these mobile phones you are trying to join in a certain way, both of them have different orientations, and both of them you are trying to join in a certain way. So what is the case? The case is, in the 2 dimensions you will have a line of contact between the 2 mobile phones in this case, and in the case of metallurgy is the grains, where you have, which you can call as a grain boundary, isn't it? I mean, it's the simplest way of thinking. So that's the grain boundary, isn't it? So similarly, when you are talking of so the third type of an interface, is that what I've already told you. See, same thing. It's like a grain boundary only. Just the one difference is, now suppose you take again the mobile phone example. Left hand you hold this Samsung J10 Galaxy phone, and right hand you take an Apple iPhone. Okay, fine. There are 2 different, 2 different mobile phones, right? 2 different companies, 2 different models. So, and you try to hold them, in a bit different fashion. You try to twist your left hand in a certain way, and you again try to twist your right hand in a different way, and you try to bring both of them in contact with each other. So what will you have is that you will have a line of contact between the 2 different mobile phones. So in that case, the boundary between the 2 different company mobile phones will be the interface boundary or the interface. Alpha is in the case of mobile phone example that I've given you. Alpha is the Samsung J10 Galaxy mobile phone, and beta is the whatever. So the iPhone i12, i12. Apple iPhone, right? It's very expensive, but okay. So alpha beta. So it's an alpha beta interface. So that's that's the simplest way. For your level, that's the simplest way to even visualize. This is actually what happens in metallurgy. If you understand these things, you will know more of around 40-50% of metallurgy. Completely. So now, so this is the definition. Now, I've told you and whatever I have covered in this slide is just the definition. Now, let us not complicate things further. Now, let us think only of grain boundary for the present moment. So basically, you have been seeing grain boundaries since you have seen microstructures, right? Microstructures comprise of grains, grain boundaries, different grains with different orientations, a lot of other things. You have dislocations, you have precipitates, you have dispersoids, a number of other things. We'll not just start discussing about everything. But now let us first look into grain boundary. So grain boundary, as I've already told you, it's a two-dimensional or a planar defect, right? Why? Because it's a planar defect. Because if you are looking at now again take the mobile phone only, again you think of the mobile phone. Now in the mobile phone, now suppose on the both sides of the mobile phone. Now suppose on the below, on the bottom of the mobile phone, you have a rectangle, right? And there's a rectangular shape, no? And that rectangular shape of the mobile phone actually represents a plane. I mean, it's a 2D, right? It's a 2D. So if you consider that both the two different mobile phones, of the same model, two different mobile phones, they're trying to make a line of contact, then actually you can visualize that in the form of a 2D, of course, because both the planes and both the planes which are in contact with each other for the two different mobile phones are actually in 2D, right? X, Y. But again, so definitely it might take some time for you to visualize, but I'll try to make it simple. So that's what. Now let us move to further discussions. So grain boundaries. The simplest thing is that the grains in a polycrystalline specimen, okay, in a single phase polycrystalline specimen, are generally in many different orientations. Someone just clearly said that, and many different types of grain boundaries are therefore possible. Okay, so basically, how does a grain boundary look? See, if you look at this, can you look at this image? Image is clear, no? You can look at this image, no? Guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay. So if you look at this image, so so you see that here we have what? We have the grains, different grains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so many grains. No? And interestingly, there are boundaries also. There are so many different, well-defined boundaries, and these are actually the equivalence grains. If you look at very carefully, they are like almost kind of a hexagonal structure. You see. And you have boundaries also in between them. Okay, so there are different boundaries. Here. I think there are the triple junctions and so on. So okay, now if you look at this, now basically how does see? We already say most of the in your BTech you will be mostly taught about within the grain boundary how the atomic arrangement looks like. It's something like this. Now suppose, but now it is it will be like you'll never be taught in BTech. I mean that I'm at this time whatever I know that what is the structure here. The structure is somewhat like this. If you look at at this particular boundary, okay, this particular boundary, see if you look at this atom or suppose this atom, it is surrounded by how many atoms? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 atoms. Okay, each atom here is surrounded by 8 atoms. Okay. Now suppose you consider an atom here near the boundary. How many atoms is it surrounded by? 1, 2, 3. So see, so basically what you see is that near the grain boundaries, if you look at the atomic arrangement, the atomic arrangement is disturbed when you, the coordination number rather to say, the coordination number is disturbed. Is reduced for an atom which is close to the grain boundary as compared to an atom which is well inside the grain, isn't it? So. This makes the grain boundary. See, many of the times or many of the situations. So, how does it influence your real life, properties of the material? I will give an example. See, suppose, okay, guys, have you ever polished a steel? I just want to know one thing from you. Have you ever polished a steel? Any of the guys? Have you polished? Am I speaking something which is too difficult to understand. Guys, anytime have you polished any steel sample, or steel, or any material, metallic material? Have you ever polished? Aniket, have you ever polished?
No way.
You have not polished. Okay, so that's what in so okay, so if it is an online class, that's the problem. Okay, don't worry. So see, any steel sample, I will show you also video. I will show you some video later. You don't have to worry. I will show you. But okay, any steel sample which you polish, okay, and then you try to you try to etch it. See, etching is nothing but you try to prepare an acidic solution. Okay, an acidic solution. And you try to see this kind of a microstructure in any metallic material will be revealed. Okay, this kind of a very deep etching, I think. Yeah. See, this kind of a microstructure will be revealed only when you have etched the material, quite a lot. For example, suppose if this is a steel sample, the etching has to happen in the presence of a solution which is known as nitrile. Okay, it comprises of around 3 parts of HCl and 1 part of HNO3. I mean, it's a very difficult agent to prepare, and one has to be very cautious when preparing that agent. And just what one has to do is that once once the surface looks like a mirror, okay, gives a mirror shine of the like once the surface of the steel sample gives a mirror shine, what you have to do is that you have to gently rub the take a cotton bud and dip it just bit a small amount of just dip it in this nitrile solution, and then soak it completely, and then just have to rub it very gently on the surface of the steel sample, so that you are able to see this kind of microstructure. Now here I will tell you now why. Now the question is, when you when you rub it, or when you rub the cotton bud on the surface of the sample, so why is it that only the grain boundaries get appeared, and why is it that all the other features do not appear that prominently as compared to the boundaries? This is because of this reason only. This is because the atoms near, see, if you look at the atoms here, okay, and you consider the atoms here, so these atoms already are having what? Atoms are already having higher coordination number as compared to the atoms which are sitting here. These atoms. So there's so much of free space, isn't it? But then, and because of that, I will. Okay, now let me ask you this. So because of that, there is one thing. When you talk of surface tension, what were you talking of? So I was talking of the surface energy. Na? Surface energy. I was talking that the extra amount of energy which is required to transform 1 mole of a solid to 1 mole of a gas. Now you think in the case of solid-solid interface, because this is a solid-solid interface, solid-solid interface. Now in that case, again, the concept is useful, but how? Can anyone of you speak? Just think. You may not give the right answer.
Yeah. If we consider an atom in the bulk, I mean at the center of a phase, we see that it is surrounded by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around 6 to 7, whatever the number is, on all of its sides, and it is balanced, equally balanced. The forces are balanced and everything.
Yes.
And when we take the same atom at the boundary, we say that on one side it is the same as the bulk, but on the other side it is empty.
Yes.
So there is a force unbalance in terms of bond forces. So this balance in force creates a increase in energy.
Increase in energy. What kind of energy? What will you call that?
The surface energy, in terms of the surface energy.
Correct. But now this surface energy in terms of grain boundary is called, you can make a note of this. This is called grain boundary energy. Okay. So always, whenever you read any research paper or any research literature, they always call it grain boundary energy. You see, grain boundary energy is also kind of surface energy, but now surface energy, people are mostly in metallurgy, people are mostly talking in terms of surface energy when you talk of a solid gas interface. Okay. Solid gas interface. You talk of a solid, you talk of a gas. Fine. So talk of a solid, you talk of a gas, and you see that the energy, the extra energy that is associated with the interface, right, will be termed as a surface energy. Now, similarly, like Aniket said, this at the surface, like within the grain, I mean, in between the two grains, the extra energy that is required to what? That is required to, that is associated, not, we cannot call it that is required to, rather we should say that the extra energy which is associated at the interface between the two grains with two different orientations is known as the grain boundary energy. So the grain boundary energy is also a kind of surface energy. It's gamma. We can only, in both the cases we write it as gamma only, and its unit is also in terms of this joules per mole only. I mean, joules per mole. But people mostly try to see, since it is per unit area, because surface energy people never write it in terms of. Now people mostly in metallurgy, when you can get confused many a times. What happens is people write that surface energy of this and this of such and such grain boundary is equal to this per square meters. This joules, this much joules per square meters. This is because people what they are trying to do is that they are trying to divide this the surface energy by the surface area. Okay, so always keep this in mind. Like the surface energy is always measured in terms of joules per mole. It is never measured in terms of joules per square meters. But why people write in terms of joules per square meters is that they suppose if it is x joules per mole of surface surface energy, then and suppose then people try to the convention is to divide it by the area. Okay, the convention is to divide it by the area. So suppose that is a joules per square mole divided by A. Now if there is capital A is the area, so x by A, and if you cancel all the units, it will become joules per square mole divided by meter square per mole. I mean joules per mole divided by meter square per mole. So it will be per mole cancelled on both sides, and it will become ultimately joules per square meters. So this is the fundamentals. Whenever you come across any for example, if suppose in the later stage, if I tell you that in a piece of copper, suppose for a high angle boundary. Okay, don't worry about this. I will teach you in this next slide only what is the high angle boundary. But suppose for a high angle boundary, the surface energy, suppose at a particular condition, at a particular temperature, is equal to 0.8 joules per square meters. Now you might have the doubt that when I am using the word energy, how can it be joules per square meters? Because see, free energy, it's also see this surface energy is also kind of free energy, isn't it? Right. I mean, it is included in the free energy terms. But then you might be confused that why am I calling it joules per square meters and not I'm calling it as joules per mole? It's because the convention is always to divide. I mean, when to report, when people report surface energy, they always divide it using the area. Okay, area of the interface or something. Okay, so I mean, there are a lot of methods. Okay, don't worry about that now. So joules per square meters. Okay, so always keep this in mind. You have to always report the surface energy in terms of joules per square meters. Similarly, grain boundary energy should always be reported in terms of joules per square meters, never in terms of joules per mole. So although joules per mole is correct, but reporting cannot be done at the same units. Okay, so now let us get back to the topic. So correct. So one of you said that okay, now not only force disbalance, but there are also a lot of other factors. But okay, force disbalance is correct. Force disbalance is the main reason. I mean, not rather to say not only force disbalance. See, it's like this. I can give you see, it's not to say every atom. See, this is a very this is like a quantum mechanical system. And not only we cannot call it quantum mechanical. Rather to say it is an atomic system, or where the length scale is around of the order of a few nanometers, of the order of a few angstroms actually. Atomic radius, angstroms. Now, what you can think is that there is no utopian force. You cannot apply Newtonian mechanics here. What you have to apply is that see, it's like this only. Now suppose you consider a bus. You consider traveling in a bus. Okay. Now what you see? See, the thing is, you have suppose there are two sections of the bus. The behind section, okay, I mean the rear section of the bus, that is overcrowded. Overcrowded in a sense that not overcrowded, rather the behind the rear section of the bus, that is crowded. Okay, not overcrowded. I cannot call it overcrowded because that will give you something different. So that is crowded, which means that if suppose you are the guy here, all the different guys will be surrounding you. Okay, and similarly, I mean this kind of a situation is very difficult to imagine in a bus. But okay, now let us imagine. Okay, I have to imagine a bit sometimes when you do some metallurgy. So now the one part of the bus is crowded like this. Now the other part of the bus, it's like only one person is standing because that guy is the VIP. Okay, and there is no other person in front of him. Okay, there may be a few people standing behind him, but there is no other person in front of him. Suppose this guy is a VIP, and both the guys are the VIPs. In that case, what happens is what is the case? It's like this atom. Okay, so basically this atom has got a free space, right? There is a huge amount of free space which is associated with both these VIPs, or with both these atoms in this case. But however, for this atom, within which is present within the grain interior, in the bulk rather. So this for this atom, the degrees of freedom are always restricted. The degree of freedom is always restricted, right? I mean, all these are the different atoms which are surrounding this particular atom. But this atom, there is no entity which is in front of this. Only there are entities which are behind all these atoms. Okay, so definitely this has got much higher, what to say. This has got a much higher, free space. First, second, see, not only force, rather to say that so basically, what do you see here? If you look at the orientation here, and you look at the orientation, maybe this might be a bit confusing. Okay, if you look at the orientation here, and you look at the orientation, suppose here, so you see that there is a difference in the orientation. I mean, the pattern of the crystal growth is different here, and the pattern of the crystal growth, so the atomic arrangement is different here, and the atomic arrangement is different here. Okay, so this means that you have a discontinuity, which means that there is a certain amount of energy which is required to create that discontinuity. Correct? If you think in logical terms, see, there is a certain amount of energy, certain amount of energy, listen calmly, there is a certain amount of energy which is required to create this discontinuity of the atomic arrangement. If this is suppose the atomic arrangement here, on the other side of the boundary or the other side of the discontinuity, you have what? You have this kind of a arrangement. So that is basically something which is known as the grain boundary relation. Of course, also there are a lot of other factors, because see, whatever you have said, there are also there are a number of models which also support the force balance concepts. But I mean, there are, say, grain boundary is something which even people nowadays have not been completely able to understand, because see, the sole reason being being the space, or being the extra amount of energy which is associated with this boundary. I mean, it's not simple to define. No, within the grain, the atomic arrangement we can very well understand. But when it comes to the interface, on both sides we have, see, now suppose you consider this atom here on the other grain, the arrangement is different. Although there is a free space here, but it is, and although there is a free space here, but now the arrangement of the vicinity in front of this atom is much different as compared to the vicinity in front of this atom. I mean, it's totally different. I mean, that's the reason why grain boundaries are one of the most difficult to even imagine. I mean, not imagine, rather to say, people have imaged grain boundaries a lot, but to really come up with a model which can very well explain that what actually happens at the grain boundary, that has not been possible even today. I mean, there is, although a lot of theoretical and theoretical models mainly have come up, but I mean, it's very hard to see in real life. I mean, that's very difficult. Okay. So okay, now let us come back to the main thing. So the main thing is a very simple thing. So you see, this is a microstructure. No? This is a simple microstructure. Now let us consider this as the alpha iron at room temperature. You consider this as as a polycrystalline material, and you have all the alpha grains here. Now suppose you look at you go further, you magnify the image more, well, not magnify, rather you see the atomic arrangement. Okay, atomic arrangement atomic arrangement you can see by a lot of other techniques, not by a simple light microscope or an SEM. It's not possible. So what you can do, you have to look at, see, now if you look at the atomic arrangement within this grain and all the different grains, you will have definitely a well-defined, the atoms, well-defined, crystallographic arrangement within the grains. Long-term periodic, or the long-range, whatever I said in the first day, long-range periodic arrangement of atoms, isn't it? So it's a long-range ordering rather. There's a crystal. It's a crystal. It's a crystal. But now, if you look at this boundary, and now suppose you consider this boundary, and there's a boundary, the atoms are looking somewhat like, the atomic arrangement is somewhat like this. It's very confusing. I mean, but now see, the only reason why there is not a proper explanation on till date, which has been possible on the structure of the grain boundary, is because of something. Okay, now let me ask you this thing. So what do you think when you look at the atomic arrangement at the interface? Okay, at this grain, the crystal 1, crystal 2. If you look at the atomic arrangement here, do you think it is crystalline or amorphous? कोई भी बोल सकता है, सुबोध, अनिकेत, जो भी है. You can say. Is it crystalline? Is this is crystalline? This is crystalline. Is this crystalline or amorphous? What do you think? What is your opinion? This is
amorphous.
Amorphous. Okay, why?
Sir, okay. There is no regular arrangement.
Okay. Even I used to think it is amorphous, but then okay. And any other opinion? I will tell you. This is a very interesting. People have been fighting over it since 150 years. No. Okay. Okay. Any other thinking on this? Just see. This is just a fun game. Okay. No need to worry. Even if you give the wrong answer, this is okay. No, I will tell you the right answer.
Deformed crystalline structure, I think.
Deformed crystal. Oh, okay. Why is it deformed? Okay. Why do you think it's deformed?
As because the atomic arrangements, some of the atoms are means perfect crystals, some of them have been deformed. So I think
No, I said, is it not deformed and all? I said, is it a crystalline or amorphous?
amorphous.
Amorphous. Okay. See, then I can share you. See, I will share you some of the very interesting facts. It seems that see, like since 1910. Okay, so 1910 there is one guy named Andrade. Okay, so he worked initially on this game models, and he said. Like till 1960s, I think. No, I think no. 1966, I think. Till 1966, it was considered amorphous only. All the people used to think that okay, why at a grain boundary, everything will be amorphous, and so as a result, because why? Why? Because the atomic arrangement looks like this. No? All the atomic arrangement looks somewhat like something which is very which looks definitely even to me it appears like amorphous only. But now in 1967, I guess I don't exactly remember the year. There is one guy, D.G. Brandon and Ralph, I think, and there is another guy from India only. This Ranganathan, I think. All the three guys proposed one thing. They proposed that a grain boundary also has some structure associated with it. So it is wrong to say that a grain boundary is amorphous. A grain boundary is also crystalline. But the crystallinity of a boundary, listen to this very carefully. The crystallinity of a boundary doesn't follow the simple crystallographic rules which is applicable to within the grains. It is. I will explain. You don't need to worry. This is just a fun game. I will take around 3 to 4 sessions on grain boundaries because I myself work on grain boundaries, so I know. I mean, I will explain all these things to you in more details. But okay. So first class. I just wanted to know that what do you learn out of seeing all the atomic arrangements, on both the sides of the grains. So you see, okay, so it looks like amorphous, of course. It appears, of course, no, it is amorphous only, but then it is not amorphous. There is something, and I will explain that to you. Not now, maybe in some other later classes. Okay. Okay, now let's get back. I mean, I've been too asking too much. Okay, so. See, grain boundaries basically have what? 5 independent macroscopic degrees of freedom. I will again you don't have to worry about this. Just keep this in mind. With classes, with more and more sessions, you'll learn more and more of this. So don't worry about that. So 3 for orientation of one grain with respect to the other. मतलब क्या? So you see 1, 2, 3, 3 grains. तीन grain है. यहाँ पे so if you look at this one grain 1 and grain 2, suppose. So 3 for the orientation of one grain with respect to the other grain. Means orientation of one grain with respect to the other grain is this with respect to this or this is with respect to that. Okay, and 3 for orientation of one grain. So see, in the beginning of the class, I said to Aniket that is 3 for orientation of one grain. So when you define orientation is defined by what? Grain boundary plane, right? It's a planar defect, 2D defect. Grain boundary plane and the angle of misorientation. Now, suppose you consider this plane of atoms. I mean, if in 2D it is a plane, this is a line of atoms actually in 2D, and in 3D it's a plane of atoms, right? So if you consider this and you consider this, you have a certain misorientation angle, no? You have a certain angle which is in between them. Okay, that is one thing. That is called the misorientation angle. First, second. Now suppose this, when I was also giving an example of mobile phone. You hold 2 mobile phones, of the same company, and you try to hold them in the same, with a different orientation. Okay, and try to twist your left hand and then try to twist your right hand, and both the mobile phones are of the same company, and then try to bring them in contact with each other. So basically, the line of contact that you are going to form, or that you are going to form with this interface, will definitely have what? Will definitely have in 2D it will be a plane. So in 2D it will be a plane, and definitely any plane should have what? An HKL. I told in the last class. It is the outward normal which describes what? Which describes this orientation. Any plane should have an orientation, isn't it? So here when you're looking of the 3 for orientation of one grain with respect to the other. So basically what I'm doing is that out of these 3 also there is a division. You can note this down. Out of these 3. The 2 is mean for the 2 is mean for the angle. Okay, I'm sorry. The 2 is mean for the I mean, out of the 3, the 2 is mean for the for the grain boundary plane, GB plane. The 2, like out of the first 3, now don't consider the second 2. Second 2 is a different thing. Don't worry about that. First, out of the 5 independent macroscopic degrees of freedom, the first 3, which represents the orientation of one grain with respect to the other grain, out of the 3, the first 2 represents or they are meant for the grain boundary plane. Okay, I will tell you why. I mean, some of the later classes I will tell you why, because this is, first of all, this itself is quite hard for you to digest. So okay, so first 2, it is for the grain boundary plane, and now in the next case, and when you go to the next, I mean the next degree of freedom, that is the first 2 I've already said. Now remaining is 1, right? So this 1, the degree of freedom is for the grain boundary misorientation angle. So for so out of the first 3, the first 2 represent the the grain boundary plane, and the third one represents the grain boundary misorientation angle. Okay, and the later 2. Okay, so now you forget about the first 3. The first 3 you already told. That is the first thing. Then now we have to consider the second 2. The दूसरा 2 जो है, the later 2 is basically for the orientation of the grain boundary plane with respect to either of the grains. So note the difference very carefully. See, the 3 for the orientation of one grain with respect to the other grain. So orientation of one grain with respect to the other grain, and the second 2 is for the orientation of the grain boundary plane. Okay, so for example, if you look at the 2 mobile phones, okay, take the example of the 2 mobile phones. So you basically have one mobile phone with having a certain orientation with respect to the other mobile phone, same company. Okay, and both of you and both the mobile phones have been held at different, in different ways or in different fashions on the on your left and on your right hands. But now, if you look at at the line of contact, that is now, so basically, so in the first case, basically your 2 mobile phones are having different orientation. So if you label mobile phone 1 on your left hand and mobile phone as 2 and on your right hand, then the 1 has a different orientation with respect to the 2, right, with respect to second. But now if you have a line of contact in between them, because you're trying to bring both the mobile phones in contact with each other, okay, so then what is going to happen is that your plane, you will definitely form a plane, right? Because you will form a line and a line of contact, and that will in 2D, that will act as a what? That will act as a plane. Not in 2D, rather in 3D. In 3D, that will act as a plane, right? Because if you are forming a line in if you're forming a line in 2D, it will be acting as a plane in 3D. So definitely that's the reason why your grain boundaries are always known as the planar defects, right, or the 2-dimensional defects. So definitely there is a plane, right? Because the line of contact appears as a plane in 2D. So that plane, जो plane ये वाला है, मतलब मान लो if you have this plane, now if you have this, no, definitely there is a unique plane which is associated with this boundary. Although you are looking at the difference in the atomic position, I mean, it appears as a as an amorphous arrangement, I mean, which is not. But then there's obviously a unique atomic plane which is associated with this region. And now this unique plane, now for example here, there's a unique plane, right? There's a unique plane which is associated with this region. So that unique plane will definitely have an orientation which is different as compared to this, the orientation of grain 1, and also which will have a difference in the orientation which is also different as compared to that of grain 2, isn't it? So orientation of the grain 1 is different with respect to orientation of grain 2. Similarly, grain 2 will have a different orientation with respect to grain 1. Now, one thing, the first 3 orientations, right? First 3 degrees of freedom, they're got. Now the second 2, बचे तो उसमें क्या है? Now you have the grain boundary plane. You have also the grain boundary plane. Suppose I label it as around 1 prime. Okay, this 1 prime. This is the grain boundary plane. So 1 prime will have a different orientation with respect to grain boundary. With respect to the grain 1, and similarly, the 1 prime will have a different orientation. Different orientation, not relationship. That's a different thing. So 1 prime will also have a different orientation with respect to the atoms in grain 2. Right, so the last 2 degrees of freedom, okay, or the last 2 independent macroscopic. There's also another reason why I'm calling it independent and macroscopic. So this 2 degrees of freedom are actually for describing the orientation of the grain boundary plane with respect to either of the grains. Okay. So and basically this all these so like the first two are like I told you, the first two. Why am I calling it independent is because just I will tell you briefly today. The first two is for the grain boundary plane, for the orientation of the. It's not the orientation of the grain boundary plane. It's a different thing. Okay. I mean, why am I telling this repeatedly is because you might confuse this with this second with this two. So this first, so out of the three, the two that are there, the first two that are there are only to describe the indices of the grain boundary plane. Matlab, now if this is the 111 and suppose this is the 112 or the 110 whatever, now this plane is suppose the 123. Suppose it is 123. Now this, so if it is 123, 123 is the grain boundary plane. So the 123 is being described by the 2 degrees of freedom. Out of these three, the 2 degrees of freedom will go on for describing this 1, 2, 3. Now the later one, jo one is remaining for the describing the orientation of one grain with respect to the other grain is to describe what is the angle. What is the angle in between? I mean, what is the misorientation angle across the boundary? Okay, what is the misorientation angle across the boundary? So that is the total. These 2 plus 1 count up to 3. Now now I told you in this example it is 1, 2, 3. Now what is the orientation of 1, 2, 3 with respect to 1, 1, 0, and what is the orientation of 1, 2, 3 with respect to 1, 1, 1 or whatever? So whatever be the I mean, be the orientation of these two grains. I mean, it depends. It doesn't matter. So those two, I mean, the later 2 degrees of freedom will go for describing those this thing. Okay. So total a grain boundary and all these things, and all these things are independent of each other. They are not dependent. They are not dependent on each other, and they are macroscopic also. Because I will tell you why it is macroscopic is because you can see it in. When you are looking at this kind of thing, so you can determine this degree of freedom even when you do even when you take a high resolution SEM image. I mean, not an SEM image, rather you take an EBSD image. I mean, it's electron backscatter diffraction image. So it's a so the length scale is not that low. I mean, whenever you look at an SEM image, you are essentially not seeing the atomic structure, rather you are seeing a substructure. No, this is an SEM image. And if you take, if you overlay an EPSD image in that, so it will be like a different color coding. If it is red color, I mean, it's a different grain. No? Two of them are a different grain. So it will be a red color. It might be a green color or a blue color or whatever. So this EBSD technique can easily determine all these 5 different macroscopic. People. That's the reason people call it macroscopic degrees of freedom. There are also 3 other degrees of freedom that will be too much for you at this class. So at this moment, so this 3 other degrees of freedom which are microscopic. Again, that we can only determine using the atomic structure only. We cannot determine using the SEM image and all. I mean, that will be crazy, isn't it? So that and all these and see, these are 5 independent, and those 3 the microscopic degrees of freedom are dependent on each other. It will be very hard to First, let us digest this. Let one of you digest this. That's important. Okay. Now the other point is the nature of any boundary, any grain boundary, nature of any particular grain boundary will depend on, I've already told you in the first beginning of the class. So it's depends on misorientation of the 2 adjoining grains. Okay, so misorientation of the 2 adjoining grains. This grain, some misorientation of the 2 adjoining grains, and the orientation of the boundary plane related to them. Like I already told, the first 3 will go on for describing this or misorientation between the 2 grains, and the orientation of the boundary plane with respect of these either of the grains. Now, if you consider this as boundary plane, what is the orientation difference of this plane with respect to this, and what is the orientation difference of this plane with respect to the that of the for the crystal with respect to the crystal 2 or the grain 2 rather. Okay. So fine. So till this part is okay. So till this part it is clear, na? It is clear till this part.
To be honest, not clear. Way.
Okay, which part is not clear?
The misorientation angle is okay, digestible. But the distinguishing factor between the lower, I mean the 2 for orientation of GB plane with respect to either of the grains, and the other 2 which orientation related degrees of freedom. These 2 are confusing.
Okay, but okay, fine. See, what I was meaning to say is that suppose you consider this first 2 grains. Okay, that's what I didn't want to illustrate that much. Okay, so okay, suppose you take the first 2 grains. Now this grain is having a 110 orientation. Suppose, okay, and now suppose this grain has got a 111 orientation. Okay, now orientation of this grain is different with respect to this grain, right? Correct, right? I mean, this 110 and 111,
Yes.
111, correct, different. Fine. Now, suppose you have a grain boundary plane in between them. Okay, and that grain boundary plane is having an index of around. See, grain boundary plane. This is again something which is, I think, I think I have a video at the end. I can explain you that better. But okay, see, suppose the grain boundary, like you only said, Aniket, that there should be a plane. There should be a plane in between the when you are trying to join the crystals. You will have a plane in between them, isn't it?
Yes, bro.
Yeah, because if you look in 3D, it will be a plane. If you look in 2D, it is a line. And if you look in 3D, it will be a plane, right? You have to cut a section, so it will be 3D. So that 3D, if you look as a plane,
But the
that
plane direction, I mean the grain boundaries plane direction, as you said, it will be defined by a vector, and
yeah, of
that
course.
is going to change for every minute distance.
Yes, yes, yes. I will. That's what. Okay, okay. So now you have raised this question. I will definitely answer you because, say, if it is defined by a vector and that exactly whatever you have said, that comes as three dependent microscopic degrees of freedom. That's exactly what is the three microscopic degrees of freedom. That I didn't want to touch today. I mean, that is. I mean, see, first of all, having five independent microscopic degrees of freedom itself is difficult for people to understand. So, I will tell you, but don't worry. See, that vector will be different. Correct. Now, if you look in a real situation, I mean, if you look in a real situation, every with distance, okay, with distance along the grain boundary plane, okay, with distance along the grain boundary plane, you will have, you will have a variation in the vector. Okay, you will have a variation in the grain boundary plane vector. So that, so definitely this will result. That will result in two things. That will result in the atomic translations. Okay, now let's not go more into that. I mean, other people might get confused. I will tell you later. I mean, this thing is very interesting. Okay, so okay. So what I was saying, Aniket, to you is that if you have a line, okay, in an ideal case, don't think of this variation in the vector, because if you think now of the variation in vector, the five independent you will not be able to understand. See, the simple thing is, if you have a plane, if you just consider a simple plane, you consider a simple plane, and like don't consider a boundary as a zigzag also, because in that case, again, you will like your point will be valid because your the vector will be different along each and every point. Now just consider this as a straight line. Consider this as a straight line. Don't consider this as a zigzag plane. Actually, in a microstructure, this is a zigzag line only. But for understanding this five independent, that should be a single line. Now let us understand like this. Now in that case, you will definitely not have variations in the vector, right? Even you will not have the variations in the vector orientation,
Yeah,
right?
the vector is fixed.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right. Because see, that's what I didn't want to complicate it, because see, if you now look at the zigzag plane, zigzagging means indicates some thousands of complications. Why? Because see, now if you take a normal here, you take a normal here, you take a normal here, all these normals will be different. All these grain boundary normals will be different. As a result, what will happen? You will have to again consider the three microscopic degrees of freedom. Okay, and so total में कितना आता है कि grain boundary will have an 8, actually 8 degrees of freedom grain boundary has. But in a simple case, when you have the grain boundary plane as a straight line, now suppose you think of it as a straight line, so that suppose the orientation of that line, I mean of that, not line, rather to say the orientation of that plane, or the outward normal to that plane is 112. Suppose. Now so this 110, 111 difference in orientation is there, correct? Now 112, now this is straight line, 112, 112 will have a different orientation with respect to 110, of course, and similarly 112 will also have a different orientation with respect to 111, isn't it? Or is it again
Yes, Priya.
confusing?
Yes. Got it. Next.
Yeah, so that is so that is the reason why so I mean that is something where people have to where people initially started to describe these five independent the microscopic degrees. Now see, now the other thing, that the point you have raised is a very valid one. So this shows that you are understanding more and more. I mean, this is very good to see that see, any microstructure will never have a straight boundary, and there are thousands of reasons to it. I will tell you later one by one, but okay, we'll always have a zigzag orientation, okay, zigzagging of that. Okay, I will tell you later. Now let us go further. Okay. Now let us just we have to also wrap up something. We have to explain more and more. So okay. So just I think this is the last slide. Yeah, I guess it's the last slide. Yeah, I think yeah. So types of grain boundaries. See, if you look at this. Okay. So guys, have you come across this image? I think Gaurav must have taught you this. Aniket, you were talking initially that it was comparison of this location.
Some
Yes, Priya.
Yes, someone was also speaking. Yeah, you can talk. Go on.
Yeah, Soumya ma'am has taught us about this
Okay. So
particular.
what is okay? Very good. So what are these two things? Any idea? if you remember. See, you have two crystals, and you have what? And you have what are these two crystals doing? Okay, almost. I think you guys have forgotten. So I'll explain this again. Okay, so the easiest classification of boundaries is based on the extent of misorientation between the two grains. Okay, that's that's the reason why learning the 5 macroscopic degrees of freedom is very essential. That's very important. So for that, I will explain these two figures. Now let us first go. So this classification is based on Reed-Shockley model. Okay, I will again, don't worry about this name. Name is there is nothing big in this name, but Reed-Shockley model. What is that model actually? I'll tell you. So based on the criteria, there are two types of boundaries. Grid boundaries. So the first is the low angle boundary. So this Reed-Shockley model. Now if you look at this theta, you carefully observe this theta. No, this first these two things. No? Theta. So if you have theta which is less than 15 degrees, we call it low angle boundary. Correct. And if you have theta which is greater than or equal to 15 degree, we call it a high angle boundary. So we call it a high angle grid boundary. So why 15 degree? Now the question is, what is so sacrosanct about this 15 degree? See. Okay, now Aniket, any idea? You were telling about this. It is it is having dislocations. Green boundary is having dislocations. Now, can you tell me what is happening when it's 15 degree, less than 15 degree? Any idea? Simple idea.
Well, I don't have any knowledge about this, Priya,
No, but okay, but tell me.
I've taken it for granted. I mean, less than 15 greater than, but never thought about why it is only 15.
See, in science, you should never take anything for granted, no? You should have thought, no? Why is it 15 and why it is not 15.1? Or why it is not 15.01?
Yeah, didn't think about it.
You should think. See, that's the reason, no? That's the whole purpose of being a scientist. See, I'll tell you. Don't worry. Aniket, can you repeat what you said in the beginning about the grain boundary containing dislocations? I will, make use. You answer this. Okay. Can you take me again?
Sorry, Priya, could you repeat?
See, I am saying that in a boundary. Okay, you said in a boundary it comprises of what? Dislocations, right?
Yes, Priya.
Okay, good. So dislocations, how are these dislocations arranged? I will get the answer extracted from you.
Well, in these types of orientations, what I have knowledge about is when we have a series of edge dislocations, there is this type of the A type of
right. So what kind of A? A is what? A is what kind of boundary? Then you call it.
I forgot the terminology.
Okay. No problem. Okay,
and when there is a combination of this edge dislocations and screw dislocations, we have the second type, I guess.
Yes, correct. Very good. So in that case, if it is 15, what do you think will happen? Dislocation में क्या होता है? अगर if it is more than is a very high theta, what will happen? More than 15, what will happen? See, dislocation, I will give you a hint.
Yeah, you could just complete.
I will just give you a hint. The hint is the dislocation will have a certain region which is called the dislocation width or the dislocation core. Then, now tell me. Now, what will happen? If your misorientation angle is very high, I mean, it's around more than 15, then what is the case? Then what will be the case? Again, you have to take something, no?
Right now, I'm not getting any
See, just simple
idea.
Thing. No, simple thing. So suppose you have, suppose you have dislocations, more than 15 degree. What will happen is, I will explain you later. So that's what I wanted to just know from you. Okay, what will happen is you will have a lot of dislocations. You will have a lot of dislocations which are lined up together. Okay, you have so many. Like it's like this. I don't have do I have a diagram today? I don't have a diagram. Okay, but guys, yesterday I sent you this one YouTube video. If you have seen that, you have seen this this diagram, or maybe I can also search a diagram for you. Okay, fine. See, the main thing is if you are having less than 15 degrees, basically there is a proper or a well-defined separation between the dislocations which are sitting at the tilt boundaries. Now this is called a tilt boundary. Okay, the first is called a tilt boundary and the second is called a twist boundary. Okay, so there's a tilt boundary. Why tilt boundary? I will tell you why. But okay, now suppose you consider this is simplest boundary which can ever be imagined. Okay, so this is the simplest boundary. Now suppose you have a crystal here, okay, which is a crystal here, and you have another crystal which is having a certain orientation difference, of course, and which is having a misorientation angle of equal to theta, okay, with respect to the first crystal. Now here, if you have the theta less than 15 degree, what is the case is you have dislocations which are very well arranged. Okay, which are arranged properly. This y very well, this very well also I have to define, but you know I can just define it by my mouth because I have to show you some diagram. Today I didn't want to go that much into this, but okay, I'll just briefly tell you that y it is more than 15. If it is more than 15 or generally even equal to 15, what happens is you will have a number of dislocations which are lined up. Okay, we have a number of dislocations which are lined up along a single plane or along a layer of the green boundary plane. Okay, now if you have a green boundary plane here, so there will be a lot of dislocation population will be huge. Here, everywhere is so many dislocations will be there that the dislocation core. So then so like if you look at edge dislocation, how do you represent edge dislocation? You represent it by a vertical line and you have a horizontal line, right? Intersection. So the intersection is basically something which is known as the core. Now what is going to happen is that intersection of the vertical and the horizontal line, like in the diagram, that is actually the core of the dislocation. So if you have the theta which is greater than 15 degrees, so that core of the dislocation will be overlapping with each other. So when you have the core of the dislocation overlapping with each other, what is going to happen? I mean, the structure will be unstable, right? I mean, the entire structure will be completely unstable. I mean, there will be a repulsion. I mean, it's a kind of repulsion. The dislocations will start repelling each other. In that case, the boundary will not be stable. So but we do not see this, right? I mean, this is what this model says. But now, I mean, this based on this model, now this model is going to consider that grain boundary is comprising of dislocations. Okay, but now if you have theta more than 15 degrees, this model fails, and that's the reason. Okay, because see, if you want this model to be correct, if suppose this model is correct and you have theta is more than 15 degree, what will happen? So this so many dislocations are there and their cores are overlapping. Dislocation cores are continuously overlapping, which means that there is a repulsion between the dislocations, which means that your boundary will not exist as such, if you consider this model only. So this means that this model is going to fail when you are having the theta greater than or equal to 15 degrees. So that is the reason why this classification has been made. So this higher classification, when you are going, this is known as the high angle grain boundary. And see, and this is so why 15 degrees is because there is I think I will share you the calculation maybe in the Google Classroom. You can have a very well look into that, a very good look into that. So there. The thing is, this thing. I mean, if it is like you will check, you will see that if it is more than 15 degrees, your Burgers vector, okay, or the separation between the dislocations and your dislocation width, that will be the same. Which means the dislocation cores, okay, the core of the dislocations will start to overlap with each other. अब जब वो overlap करेंगे तो then what will happen? The entire structure will be unstable. But in the real case, we are not seeing such a thing. We are seeing high angle grain boundaries exist. It is not that high angle grain boundaries are unstable. So this means that this model is going to fail at theta more than 15 degree. That is the reason why people have considered 15 degree. Okay, but yeah, so I mean that is the reason. But is this reason understandable? I mean, just sort of giving you the brief highlight. Is this understandable? Aniket, is this understandable to you?
A bit confusing, Bhaiya.
Okay.
I mean, didn't get the crux why it is only 15 and not 15.1 or 15.
Okay, that's what. Yeah, so actually, yes, you see, I think I have to share your diagram. Maybe in the Google Classroom, I will share you everyone. Okay, with everyone, I will share the diagram. Okay, everyone have a look at it, because see, that's what I didn't want to explain that thing to you in this class. Next class, I wanted to explain that, but okay, I will also explain that. I will show you the diagram also. Okay, this because this is something that you have to visualize. I will show you the diagram. Okay, with that diagram you can understand. See, actually the crux is nothing but if you are having more than 15 degree, your thing, I mean all this your dislocation spacing will be negligible. Okay? The spacing between the dislocations is negligible, and you know that dislocations are always having some strain field associated with them, which means if you are having two same the two dislocations with the same sign, okay, with the same sign which are very close to each other, which means that in that case your dislocations will start repelling each other. Okay, the dislocations start repelling each other. Okay, they are very closely spaced when theta is more than 15 degrees. they will start repelling each other. If their dislocations start repelling each other, what will happen? I mean, the structure itself will go unstable. This means this model will fail at theta more than 15 degree, isn't it? That is the, I mean, that is something which,
Yeah, this model of dislocation repulsion is a bit alien to us.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. I know. I mean, these things maybe may take some time, but okay. What I will do, I will share you this image. I will share you the image. See, in this Google Classroom, if you have a doubt, you please raise your doubts, and then I will start answering them one by one. Okay, I think that is the best thing, because today then this class will never be over otherwise. So, okay, I will move on. I will share it. Don't worry. I will just share it quickly. Okay, so based on that, see, I don't want to cover this high angle. I mean, it will take some time for you to understand what is the dislocation model and all. So see, nothing. So these two boundaries that you are seeing, A and B boundaries that you see, these are nothing but the two types of these are primarily two types of LGBs. Okay, that there are primarily two types of low angle grain boundaries. So this the first one is called a pure tilt boundary. Pure tilt boundary. This one. Why is it a pure tilt? This is because axis of misorientation. If you look at this top axis, this top axis, the rotation axis is written as rotation axis. The rotation axis or the axis is nothing but the axis of misorientation, right, across the boundary, which is parallel to the grain boundary plane. Now, if you take this grain boundary plane, now if this is the boundary plane, this is the axis. So what? I mean, both these are parallel. No? Both these are parallel to each other. This is parallel to this. I mean, the rotation axis is parallel to grain boundary plane. First. Second, if you look at the pure twist boundary, look at this second case, the pure twist boundary. So here if now this is the plane, right? I mean, in that case, this thing, I mean, this thing, not only this thing will be the plane. This thing is the plane. And now, what is the axis of rotation? Axis of rotation is somewhere which is 90 degree. Axis of rotation is 90 degree or is perpendicular to the grain boundary plane. So this is known as a pure twist boundary. Okay. So this thing is understandable to you? Pure twist boundary.
Yes, Pierre.
This is understood, right? Yeah. So low angle and high angle boundary, I will show you the schematic. I think today I didn't want to explain this, but okay, I will explain. No, I will show you this diagram. I will share the diagram, and I will also share some illustration of the diagram, so you can understand more. Now, in a simple words, I'll explain. Okay. Now let's watch these videos. Okay. I think with this we'll just wrap up. So we'll just watch these videos. Can we watch this video? This is quite interesting. So I'm not sure. This location of planar glide. Planar glide video. I'm just. So if this I have to. Oh, I don't know. This. Oh, this shows. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is the second video, I guess. It's not the first video. I think wait. Let us go back, I guess. I think this is not the same video. It's not the same video. This is not a general video, I guess. No, this is. It's not. No, not this one. So okay, so this is actually the video I wanted to show you. Okay, but this is a bit too big, no? 22 minutes video. If you want to see, you can see. This is basically a bubble trap mode. Just look at this. Do you have time, guys? Do you have anyone who wants to leave? You can leave now. You can watch this video later also. But if you are interested, you can watch this video now also. Is it good? Guys, you people have time, or you want to watch it in the homework or something in the home? Or what? Hello.
Well, personally, I would like to watch it, but
Okay. Then I think this video is a bit big now, so maybe you can watch it later. But the first video, I think it's a different thing. I think this is the video that I was interested. But then this video, why did it open? Wait, I think this is a 2 minutes video. This won't take much time. No, not this, not this, not this at all. Why is this not happening? Okay, no, I think these two videos you can, or this video, I think something I wanted to show you. Yes, this I wanted to show you. 4 minutes video you can see now. 4 minutes video I wanted to. Now just see what is the grain. Yeah, see. It's an old video, so video quality is very poor, but this is quite interesting. I mean, this is a short one. It's very interesting. See, it's a piece of alumina. The grains are visible. See, he's polishing it. Yes, mirror-like finish. Now what is going to do? You see, just given it. He is going to etch it. Powerful acid. See, he is going to etch it. Is going to corrode on the grain boundary because the grain boundary has a higher energy. Okay, so you see, we'll check that. We'll show you. Yeah, because otherwise it will over etch. Etching. This will absorb all the etchant. Okay. No, there will be no piece of etchant because etching is actually a kind of corrosion. Yes. Yes. Light contrast, isn't it? The optical microscope. Ah. The copper. He's he's trying to show now that how brings up the form. Aluminum. Yeah. He molten. He's going to first melt it. Check. Yeah. Now see. This is tap. All these are molten. It's looking like water, but it's molten aluminum. Yeah, see now see. See it solidifies now. Now you see what is going to happen. He will show you. Yeah. Now see the liquid. Now the aluminum. Now see all the different orientations. Now once they connect, see now this way this forms. Yes. Take it out. See. So this is something that I wanted to show you. I mean, see this is this is the beginning. No, this is the beginning of the grain boundary fundamentals. Now, but I will request the request to one of you is that, and I don't know. I think some video has already started. I think just wait for a moment. I think some. Sorry for this interruption. All these things again come. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So what I would like to all of you guys to do is to watch this first video. Okay, this first video and also the video I shared yesterday in this Google Classroom because see with this grain boundaries everything is based on your observation. Nothing to mug up, nothing to do anything. You just have to understand. So for just if you understand everything these things, you will understand everything. You do so all rest everything is all the information. Now information you can mug up anytime. You can vomit in exam. You can vomit in the exam. That is a different thing. But all these things will be throughout your life, important to your life. So I think my request to all the guys is that please look at this video because See, this is not an assignment I'm giving you. What I want all of you guys to do is that you will never be taught these things in BTech. So these things, if you look into now, you will be in advantage. Even in IITs, they don't teach. Okay, so there's grain boundaries in the BTech level. So definitely, you'll be in a. I think you'll be in a better position in this physical metallurgy. So okay. So okay, so Aniket, I will share your. I will share this. I will solve this doubt. 15 degree level, less than 15 degree, more than 15 degree. I will share. I will solve this doubt. Remaining guys, if you have any more doubts, please ask. Please ask now, because I think with this we will wrap up. Okay. If you have doubts, you can ask, else you can leave. Okay. So thank you guys. If you want to ask something. Remaining, who are the guys who are remaining? And I don't know how many people are there. There's the participants. So Shayan, Subodh, Aniket, only these three guys, I think. Oh, well. Sure. Okay. So Shayan, how is it? Do you understand anything in the class, or Shayan? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Your voice
Hello.
is cutting. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, tell me. Yeah,
Hello,
Shayan,
sir.
tell me. Yeah, hello. Tell me, yes.
Hello.
Yes, hello. I can hear you. Tell me.
Sir, nothing, sir. Hello.
You understood anything, or you want to? You have any suggestions?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, Aniket.
No, sir.
Yeah, okay. Aniket, if you have further doubts, you can ask me. This thing I will share. 15 degree and more than.
Yeah, for now that 15 degree only.
Oh, very good. I mean, that's a very interesting thing. Of course, when I learned this concept, I had this big doubt. Okay, very good. This thing you should always be there. No, this ये भूख रहनी चाहिए. Then only you can learn more. Okay, and this Subodh.
Yeah, as of now, it's okay.
As of now, it is okay. As of now, it is okay means, I mean, okay. I mean, did not
It's
understand.
understandable. Means,
Understood.
further, I need to go. Means I need to check once again.
Okay. What I will do, don't worry. I will see. Today's meeting has been recorded. Okay, and today's PPT I will also share. And what I will do is that this Anike's doubt I will definitely solve. I mean, this is something. See, this is the kind of see what Anike did today. This is the kind of curiosity I want from all of you guys. If all of you guys start asking me questions, if all of you guys want to know what is happening, or what is so sacrosanct. See, suppose I told you 15 degree. Never accept what am I saying. See, if I am saying, and if you find it doubtful, make it a point to stop me and ask. See, many a times it might be possible that, like today, I could not show the diagram, because see, that diagram is not easy first of all to draw. If I want to draw, then I have to take some board, I have to go to the board and I have to draw the diagram, and then I have to show you. But then otherwise I can easily see otherwise within I will also improve myself as a teacher. I will also improve myself, that okay, I will think that okay, fine, my students are not able to understand something, or you guys are not able to understand something. I will show you more and more videos, show you more and more understanding, so that you get more understanding. See, my credibility lies in how much I am able to explain to all of you guys. So definitely, and for that you guys also have to be active. I should not take the name of students, rather you should ask me that okay, I am not able to understand, please stop me, and then you can ask me. No, definitely I'll be very happy to answer all of your questions. Okay, chalo. So fine. So okay, let's wrap the class up. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, you can leave.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.